function. Now we're recording. We got the red light.
Do you know who Scrappy Sohan is?
Yes, he's
Hold on, I gotta start right.
Scrappy.
Podcast episode 7, 3:02 p.m. on January 2nd.
It's Scrappy Coco.
Scrappy Coco.
Yeah, he's a hairdresser.
The fucking chef doesn't know who he is.
Hairdresser, former Mossad operator.
Like, can you do no-handed push-ups?
Oh.
He's like, one-handed push-ups? No,
Only
I can't do it. I said, no-handed push-ups.
Only Scrappy Coco can do
Scrappy
that.
Coco. So, dudes like the podcast. A lot
That's
of comments yesterday. When I said, hey, go read those comments, I didn't intend for you to reply to the comments.
I replied to some of them.
We were going to do them on video, but we'll make this...
Just that one person actually is reading that reply, so...
We'll make this work.
It'll work. Oh, man, it's like we're on ship.
She's like, do you want the tripod? I'm like, no. The tripod would make way too much sense.
I said we're doing it gorilla style, so no tripod.
This is the day This is the day that requires us to purchase a new camera when this one hits the ground.
Wait, I gotta lean this way.
Man, go fix that. You had it set up pretty good last time. Apparently, I don't have the Midas touch. Where did that come from? The Midas touch.
From the Midas Tire Company.
Is that really where it came from?
Uh-huh, yeah.
Is it a Midas Tire Company? Because I thought it's a Midas Muffler Company.
Oh, Midas Muffler Company, I'm sorry.
You see this big-ass pipe right here that's cut off? Where the fuck does that go and where did it come from?
I don't know. What kind of fluid is coming through that? Or supposed to come through it? Because it's just another elbow to attach it to the ground.
Did you just hit that or did it move on its own?
No, I hit it. It's just another elbow that's attached to the ground at another weird angle.
That's that septic tank that's not being used.
Probably. It's probably the vent. That's why it smells like...
All-star player. Who do you think your all-star player is?
What do you mean all-star player? Like here?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean that's pretty easy. It's Dora the Explorer.
I go to because I communicate her primarily if not face to face on private message.
Uh-huh.
And it still fucks me up. I'll go in to put Dora, and it doesn't fucking. I'm like, what the fuck? I know I was talking to her yesterday because she's not Dora on.
Nick is the one that gets me every time.
Yeah, if Nick fucks me up too, I'll go to tag him and shit.
I will look for Nick for a half hour and be like, what the fuck?
Okay, who's your favorite employee?
My favorite employee? My favorite employee. I mean, I'm kind of have to lean towards Chef.
I don't count him as an employee, though. I count him as
So favorite employee. That's kind of... I mean, there's no... I guess it would be Dora the Explorer again.
I think Dora too, but you know who I like? I like little fucking Fred.
Oh, little Fred. I mean,
I don't know why. She's just always happy, and she always says good morning to me.
You will not like my answer.
Okay.
For favorite employee, we talk about past employees.
Who you got?
My favorite employee had to have been Possum.
Yeah, I do. Fucking
Fred. I do. Possum, because her story.
I enjoy Possum. I enjoy the time talking to Possum. Possum always had crazy shit to say, and as crazy and far-fetched and out there as that shit was, she had real knowledge.
Yeah, no,
into the world, we've closed the gates, we're hunkered down. I would let Possum. We're not letting any fucking Possum's people in.
No, crew's not coming, but barefoot Possum walking in from out of the woods.
Fuck yeah.
I'll guarantee she'd be wearing all animal skins.
And she'd have 20 dead dried fish with her.
Yeah, she would bring some fish with her.
We have possum stories. We could do a whole podcast on possum. We got to get Possum to come on as a guest.
It would be awesome if we could put her in a chair.
What just happened?
Something fell. Put her in a chair so you can't see her face, and just let her do possum stories.
Or let's just fucking we could put a what's that called? A burqa?
Yeah, we could put her in a burqa.
We could just put her in a dark room. Put her in a dark room with just a light swinging.
I think it would be even better if it was Possum in a burqa telling possum stories.
Or we just bar her out and put a voice changer on her. How about person you appreciate the most?
God, appreciate the most. Right this minute, it's Nick.
Why? How come?
Just because...
That's good. That's good.
Right this minute, it's Nick, because there's just been a lot of...
Nick's really stepped his shit up.
Yeah, a lot of little shit that I will throw at him, and he can, all the different multicolored slings. He's cutting those without... Yeah, I don't need to intervene or anything. Some of the different rigs, some of the Wazoo rigs that have come up that we haven't done in a long time. All that stuff, that you see coming through that's
weird.
Nick has cut.
Weird one-off ship stuff. Good.
Yeah.
Good. I like it. Oh, there's some dead air. Worst off-road 4x4 experience. We have that one we mentioned yesterday that is a long story in itself. But I seem to recall you telling me the ATC story downhill. But I remember you telling me something about you or somebody. You had some. Did you have some fat tire mini bikes or something?
Yes. So
tell that story.
Oh. So,
I don't remember it.
Me and my buddy, he had, this is back in, God, this had to have been like early 90s. But his parents bought him, it was the premier Forerunner at the time. I want to say it was like a Raptor or something. Maybe, I can't remember.
So when we started going to Vegas and hanging out with James out there, not James Rexroad, not James Yeager. Raptors had just come out. When we took all those bikes out there and I bought all those motorcycles from him, the Raptors had just come out. So
it couldn't have been a Raptor.
It was probably like a Blaster. Or
yeah, it was the premier, like, it was the premier four-wheeler.
Or something.
It was something like that. And then I had my brother's Honda 350 trike.
Which is a weird motor in itself. Yeah. Like, Honda had the XL and the XR, and they had that 350 in there, like, what, did you just, like, fucking, what are we going to do next year? Let's fucking add 100 to it. Where the fuck did a 350 come from? And then the RZ 350 and all that shit.
So I had my brother's three-wheeler, and he had that thing. And we were all going way back behind my house in the mountains towards the Nike missile base and all that stuff. And when we were hitting all the trails that the fire break trails that they cut for fire breaks. So we're way back there. And we're coming down this hill, and it's all big gravel, but it's really loose gravel. And so, like, it was really steep, and even with my brakes on, the bike, that three-wheeler, just kept moving forward. Like, I knew I wouldn't be able to stop it once it started going, even with the brakes on. So I'm telling Matt, I'm like, Matt, I'm going to fucking get off this. I'm going to get off my bike, and I am going to walk this thing down the hill, the three-wheeler. So I walk this thing down to the hill, and I get to the bottom, and Matt is still up there, and he's like, he's like, I think I can do it, and I'm like, it is too loose. This gravel is way too loose.
Why didn't you just let the transmission carry him down?
Because it was going down. It was going faster than it was sliding faster. So even with the transmission slowing you down, you were still picking up speed. And it was steep enough to where my rear wheels were kicking up a little bit. So I'm walking it down. I walk all the way down the bottom. Matt's 200 yards up this hill, and he's doing exactly what John said. He's like he's running it and gassing it a little bit, gassing it, and I'm watching him. And we are an easy 15, maybe 20 miles from any help. There's no cell phones. This is the old days. Didn't exist.
No water, no extra fuel, nothing.
So Matt is going, and he just tips all the way over. And so I am watching this bike spinning and tumbling, and Matt with it, flying in the air, tumbling, spinning all the way down 200 yards to the bottom of the hill. Now the bushes are kind of high. They're not super high, but they're about, eye level high. So when he gets to the bottom, him and his bike, I can't see him. I'm riding back to where the bottom of the hill was. Well, he actually went off the trail into the bushes and shit like that. And I'm all in my head. All I'm thinking is he's dead. Now, fortunately for Matt, I don't even remember if I was wearing a helmet. Fortunately for Matt, his dad was like, "You can't ride without a helmet." So he did have a helmet on. I'm getting close, and he just pops up from behind this bush. He just jumps up in the air, and he's like, "Oh my God, the bike is totaled." I'm like, "Who gives a shit about the bike? Are you okay?" And he's like, "I'm fine. There's nothing wrong." And I mean, he was like you see in the movies, man, flying up in the air and coming down. He's like, "I'm fine. I'm okay." But the bike is totaled. And, once again, we're 20 miles away. So we flip it over. It's totally flooded, of course. It broke
Everything.
It broke like it broke. There was a bunch of shit. So all the plastic was broke. It broke. I want to say the brake lever broke off. A couple other little minor things broke, but after sitting there for 30 minutes, it started, and we were able to ride all the way back home. Otherwise, he'd have had to ride shotgun on the 3-wheeler, and we'd had to leave that fucker out in the woods. But it was just amazing that he survived that.
So in like 8th grade, high school, so we had 6th and 7th at Farb, but 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 was at Sarah High School. And I don't think it's like that anymore. But so I'm in 8th grade, I'm at the high school, really not supposed to be at the high school, but that's the high school grade that was there. We have an auto shop, and I hear that there is a dirt bike for sale in the auto shop, and they've just rebuilt this dirt bike. So talk to mom. Mom's like, okay, you cannot ride this on the street. I'm like, no, it's just a dirt bike.
Just a dirt bike.
It's a Honda XL 175. It's a dual sport, 1978. So it's $75. So mom puts some money up, I take all my money, and we go buy this Honda XL 175. We go down, and I get the motorcycle. I don't know how to ride a motorcycle. I like literally don't know how to ride a motorcycle. They're like, so somebody kind of tells me how to ride a motorcycle. We're in the upper student parking lot. There's a hill that goes down. So I'm in first gear, get it started, finally get it to where I'm riding downhill. Boom, stalls. Takes like 20 minutes, get it back, finally get it started. Riding the bike around. I don't know how to shift. I have no clue how to shift. I don't know anything. Nobody has taught me anything about riding a motorcycle. So I ride the motorcycle all the way home in first gear. I get literally, it's like 2.5, 3 miles to the house. I am 2 streets from the house. Like I am at the house. I am stopped at a 4-way intersection. There's a light. I have a fucking red showy helmet that totally fucking sticks out like a sore thumb. Don't know how to ride this. It's got a super trap. It's super fucking loud. The bike stalls out at the fucking light. When the light turns, I cannot get the bike to even start. I'm like, it's out of gas. Something has happened to the motorcycle. So I push it the rest of the way home. Luckily, it wasn't that far. Get it home. Start going through it. I'm calling Fun Bike Center, and they're like, so come to find out, they had rebuilt this whole top end of the motorcycle. There was no drain plug. They never put oil in the bottom end, or it fell out. But like even when I went back and looked, there was no trail of oil.
Right.
So I rode the motorcycle 2 miles almost to the house with no oil. Blow the motor up. So mom was fucking awesome with that shit. Mom's taking me to Fun Bike. She's like, we'll rebuild this thing. We'll figure this out. So we rebuild the motorcycle. So the motorcycle now runs. A couple weeks later, we had to have the head machine and new valve seats and shit put in. So we've rebuilt this thing, and I'm back riding around in first gear. So I'm riding around out in Tirisana in first gear, kind of uphill. Like I didn't know how to ride. So I'm, and then you just stall out. You just didn't have it, or the tire would break free and the motorcycle would fall over. So then you're on the hill. I could turn it around and get the bike started and ride downhill and then make another run. Like I spent more time trying to ride up and down shit than actually going anywhere. I did that for like a week and a half probably, till I would shift and it would seem better. But then you would like run out of energy. And just like, I didn't know how to downshift or anything. I didn't know none of that shit. I spent a lot of time fucking crashing. And my boy Matt Chartel and Mark Chartel, he had a Honda XR 250 or XL 250, and he's like, well, ride this. So I'm riding that. When I can finally ride, I'm riding that thing around, and I'm going out where there's some tracks and shit, and I'm jumping the shit, beating the fuck out of these 2 motorcycles and shit. And that was kind of my dirt bike experience. Then I got like real motorcycles and stuff, and we would go out in Tirisana, and a lot of Tirisana was like, I'm riding with dudes that were way over my riding ability. Like the dudes that are on Krusty Demons 1, that shit. Like they filmed that shit out there. I'm riding, like Matt was a fucking really good rider. Greg Pierce was a fucking really good rider. Mike Craig rode for Team Yamaha. Jeff Emig was riding out there when he was a little kid. I'm chasing these dudes around, and like they are riding down some shit. You're like, a fucking rabbit couldn't run down that
Yeah.
shit. So there's some fire breaks, because every 5-10 years there'd be a major fucking fire out there. So they have plowed these places. So that kind of, to me, looked like a trail. So we're out, the backside of fucking Santee by the sand pits and shit, or almost, back to Lakeside and stuff, and you're like, that looks like a trail, and you start going down this trail, but the trail, it's soot. It's like they have just plowed it, and it's this deep, and your case is fucking bottoming out on the dirt, and your wheels are underground, and there's boulders, and you can't see them.
Yeah.
So you spent 4 hours trying to clutch and kind of walk this thing down this shit. Like, you became a really good motorcycle pusher. So that's a couple of them. We used to get on, so we would go, did you ever see a graveyard out there by the Nike? There was rumor that there was Indian graveyard, and all the kids talked about this Indian graveyard and all this shit. I never saw the Indian graveyard. But it was so far out when we would go ride out there that we would not have enough fuel to get there and come back. So we were taking mason jars with gasoline in a backpack, because Camelbacks didn't, like, we were carrying a mason jar with water and a mason jar with gasoline. So, and it was always some shitty gasoline that came from like your lawnmower or something, that you stole from out of the garage. It was supposed to be there for the lawnmower. So there was always, and then inevitably one of those jars would break. You just hoped it was the water.
Yeah, you hoped it was the water.
What's the best road you've ridden on motorcycles? I don't really ride road a lot. I'm not the one. I got some cool motorcycles. I don't do a lot of road riding though.
There's really good riding here in Tennessee, though.
Some of the best that you see all over the.
Yeah, there's some really good. Like, you can go. There's nice back roads that you can go and not come across a car forever. So, I really like riding here in Tennessee.
How about an industry secret? You got any insight inside to the knife industry, gun industry, nylon industry? Just something that somebody might not know. Because whatever you say, it's going to take me off in another direction.
Get the oldest Strider you have. Find the oldest Strider you can find on eBay. Make sure it's a real one. Make sure it's a real one, but make sure it was made when Strider was still in Oceanside. And then go to Strider and be like, "Hey, will you sharpen this for me?" Chances are they're going to go, "Oh my God, you can't carry that anymore. Here, take this." I don't know.
They'll give you a new one.
Inside industry, I don't have any secrets like that. I'm not really in the.
Think about how many dudes came in with old school rigs. Like, we were like, no shit, we were gonna have a gear museum. Like, we were buying that stuff back. We were offering dudes brand new, and back then it was 10 years newer. Like, the gear was 10 years old, had been on multiple deployments. Those dudes wouldn't sell that shit. Like, when you see guys selling shit out on the market that looks like it's like 20, 30 years old and used, unfortunately, a couple things have happened. The end user who fucking deployed with that shit and painted all that shit and used it, he ain't the dude selling that shit. Something happened to him and his family is selling it. That gear ended up in somebody else's hands. But a lot of time what happens with that stuff is those dudes will go on deployment or something. They'll have it in a storage unit, and the wife goes sideways on them. They get divorced or something happens, and that stuff just changes. Yeah. So when I came home from prison, like my first or second day out delivering pizzas, I'd gotten in. So it was like 2-3 days later. I'm delivering. 4 days because of the license thing. I'm delivering pizzas. I roll into Murphy Canyon military housing, and I am way the fuck back there in phase 4 or something. And roll up, and it's there's some recon dudes. There's a recon dude living in Murphy Canyon. So he's stationed at Pendleton, right? Yeah. Maybe BRC, maybe down at North Island. But,
yeah, maybe back when they were running North Island.
But he had a fucking garage full of SOE shit. Dude, it looked like he had robbed my old store. And I'm like, where did you get all this? He's like, bought it from, in Oceanside, and I just bought it from dudes that, coming back from deployment. And I'm like, do you use it? He's like, yeah, every piece of this gear is I've used operationally. Yeah. I go, I made all that stuff. I go, like, chances are I actually sewed that with my own hand. And that dude didn't believe me. He had no fucking clue. I'm just some fucking retard in a pizza delivery outfit telling him all about his nylon gear. Let's see. Skully, tell how you got it. We did the Marine Corps one. Happy birthday, Gabby. We did that one. Absolutely, man. You and Skully on the way. Topic is awesome. Biggest mistake. Personal. We did all that. There's a couple more in here. Nick Smith, favorite customer stories about Gear Series. Favorite customer stories. Anything jump out?
Favorite customer stories.
We have a lot of really, really good customers. Like we have a lot
of really good dedicated customers.
We have a guy. We still have on a weekly basis. Dudes are finding us and showing up, and we have so many venues of social media now: MeWe, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, the podcast, and our stuff gets shared so many different places. We have dudes show up literally on a weekly basis. Like, I used your stuff in Iraq. The first one, like back, you know, when Ghazni was going
10 years ago.
Yeah.
15 years ago. I mean, I would say my favorite customer stories, and because I've never seen it anywhere else. So, like, even at Strider, I don't think this ever happened. But about 3 or 4 times a year. So, since I've been here, about 3 or 4 times a year, a couple will show up here, and they'll be like, oh, we just, you know, you're like, okay, you want to buy something or whatever? And they're like, oh, no, we just wanted to come and see the place. And you'd be like, oh, what are you doing? We're on our honeymoon, or we're on our something. Something to do. We're going to Gatlinburg, but we had to come and see the shop. And I think that's kind of
like, where are you from? Neat. Texas. That's my whole, like...
People just drive through and want to just come and see the shop.
You know, we don't have a giant Ferris wheel. We don't, like, there's no killer whale here. We don't have dolphins. It's fucking cool.
The only reason we don't have dolphins is because John hasn't figured out the whole tank thing. If Super Tanks, or who's the people that make all the aquariums? Tanked. If Tank came here and made a dolphin tank, John would get a dolphin somehow.
Have you ever thought about doing contrasting colored liners in bags? I have some multicam black, red duffel bags. The question is yes. I believe that it has a black nylon liner. If it were red, it would contrast the contents more. So, yes, we have, and all of the new round duffels actually, well, let me take that back. Maybe not all of them. Many of the new round duffel bags have a contrasting color liner. So, like the bags that have the red handles or the blue handles, they have a matching liner inside. We have, in the last 60 days, ordered a fucking lot of different rolls of different colors of material to use on the inside, and really it's just to make them look better, just a more finished product. That's what that's all about. When's the last time Jeff lost his temper?
Depends on what you mean by I lost my temper, but there is one super employee here. There's one employee here.
Is he really an employee?
Well, I mean, kind of.
We talking about a child?
He doesn't think he's a child. The last time I really lost my temper was with that employee.
Babyhead.
The Babyhead. Babyhead has a way of just getting in there and just crawling underneath your skin like some sort of... He just weevils in there. And, you know, it takes a lot. He'll spend a whole week getting it. And then finally... I think that's the last time I lost my temper. Was probably Babyhead.
Did you grab hold of him?
No.
You should. If you just
I did not.
If he has a little fear of you, like if you just sock him in the stomach, you notice he doesn't fuck with Nick anymore.
No, he don't fuck with me either because I chased him out into the parking lot.
Nick pepper sprayed him. Nick choked him out. I mean, like, Babyhead was at a point where he really thought he could take Nick.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not going to stop this. If you guys want to fight, you go out there and fight. And they did, man. They went out there and fight, and Nick fucking choked Babyhead out, and Babyhead has he keeps a clear berth around Nick. Like, he does not fuck with Nick anymore.
Yeah, Babyhead's it's a hard nut to crack with Babyhead, because I felt bad but he turned the switch on. I had to go after him. And then he immediately fell in the parking lot in the fetal position, and when I got to where I was like, man, it's like beating up a retarded kid. I can't do it. So, I know everybody's going to be mad about that, but...
I don't care. Babyhead wants to fucking mouth off, like, I will grab a hold of him, and he'll do that fall down shit. And I'm like, if you don't stand up, I'm going to fucking kick you while you're on the ground. You're going to stand up, put your fucking hands up. Once you're up, you can do whatever you want to do. You can run, you can back up, but he will back. He's perfect at back. I'm like, you are literally in a corner. What? You're in a corner. You have nowhere else to go. Like you're about to trip over the target, or you fell over the tractor. Like it's fucking crazy. But he's gonna be strong for it.
I try not to let things bother me. You got to just let that shit roll off your shoulders. You know, somebody told me a long time ago, don't worry about the problems you can't fix. Fix the problems you can fix. So, you know, if I get mad, usually I'm not mad very long. So lost my that was it. It was a year ago when I chased after Babyhead because he fucking swung at me. So
I remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah. So he really pushed the buttons. But I try not to hold on to any of that shit because all that does is reduce your lifespan. So
anybody else make you mad?
Nah, you know, here no one else has made me. Let me see. Mad? No. Cookie maybe. He's always fucking with my food. Always fucking with my food. God.
He's just making it special for
you. Yeah, he just makes it special. It's funny. Cookie brings in this chart. It's a poop chart. It's got
seven Driscoll or Briscoe.
Yeah, seven kinds of poop, so you can identify your poops, right? And the number 7 obviously is the worst. That's you know, butt mud right there, number 7. Butt mud. And so he's like, I want to put this up in the bathroom, and then everybody can come out and give their number. Well, starting that day for like a week, he was giving me number 7s because he was in there rubbing his thumb in my food and doing whatever he does. But yeah, it was pretty bad. He's pretty bad with that. He's always going after my food.
That was not happening. That did not happen.
Ooh, oh yeah, I even saw him throw a booger in my food once. He still tries to deny it this day. It was a big one. You know, it's not worth it. Here's the thing: a lot of that stuff, when you get mad at people, like there's some people that should be on a list that are not on a list. It's just not worth holding on to. I mean, it's just not worth it.
If you got a free pass.
If I had a free pass.
And you could disappear somebody.
Disappear or... How long are they disappeared for?
Gone,
forever?
Dead.
Gone forever? You know, that's kind of a hard question because...
Let me add some more parameters to it.
Well, you know what? I mean...
Does it go... Number one, does it change your life? Like, do we go back in history and do it, or do we get to that person just disappears today, and you read in the newspaper that he's fucking he or she is dead?
Oh man, if I could go back in history,
I wouldn't do the back in history. I have some people. There's a couple on a list. I would rather and I don't even know if we should be doing this podcast.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, we're not.
I would rather see them die. I would rather see them die a terrible death than just read that they were dead.
I can't go back in time, so me saying that I
wouldn't go back in time because it might change things.
If it would disappear somebody, I would. Yeah, if I could, I probably would have intervened. But it would require me to go back in time. I mean, the big question there is if you have that pass, do you use that pass for your own personal gain or for worldwide satisfaction?
Let's say worldwide satisfaction. What are you thinking?
I don't know. I don't even know who I would be thinking of, because if you say, there's certain people that if you say, like, I don't know, let's just say, would this be considered a threat? Hypothetically.
That's why I'm not naming, like, I can't.
Hypothetically, let's say you said, I don't know, Nancy Pelosi. She really, in the reality of things, if Nancy Pelosi disappeared right now, how different would things be? They probably wouldn't be as different as everybody thinks they would. It's the same thing like if Trump disappeared.
Goddamn Janet Reno died, and motherfuckers were putting up shit about how great a fucking person we lost.
Even if, you know, outside of all the conspiracy theories, and remember I just said disappeared, how much does that really affect your life? So I would actually have to say, I probably would. It would be personal. I would find somebody on my personal list, and that person would have to disappear.
I'm talking personal.
Yeah, I would probably have to go personal.
I can't name mine because the people on my list have so many fucking enemies that eventually somebody will kill that person. And when that person gets killed,
yeah, they're gonna be like,
I'm probably top three suspects.
Yeah, suspect number one. Yeah,
we better just hope that when fucking something happens to that dude, I have a lot of alibis. Yeah, they're gonna come and ask me about it.
I don't have those, because it's like example would be go back and kill Hitler. The problem with killing Hitler is, so you would say, okay, so if I killed Hitler in World War I, there'd be no Hitler. But the problem with killing Hitler is his generals were smarter than he was. So if you killed Hitler, there could be a good chance that the Germans would have won World War II. It was his stupidity that basically enabled us to land at Normandy.
He didn't let them work together. Like on the atomic bomb program, for instance. He had 3 teams working. None of them shared information.
Yeah.
So they weren't able to fucking make that work.
I don't know if, our current timeline is our current timeline, so I don't know if I would do that. But
I didn't mean go back in history. I mean have somebody delivered to you.
And at this point, so that's why I say back in time. Because at this point, if that person disappeared, outside of some personal satisfaction, just some little satisfaction, it wouldn't change anything.
You just feel like he had it coming.
So, I don't know. Yeah,
surprised it took this long.
I wouldn't.
What would you go back and intervene on and change?
I can't really say that on camera.
Okay. Like our shit?
No. Okay. Nothing to do with our stuff. I mean, because... Do
you remember that we heard 2 weeks before the raid went down that we were going to get raided?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember we spent 48 hours going through everything in the fucking shop and looking and getting rid of anything we thought could be an issue?
Yeah. I mean, they came... it was dumb. It was dumb.
What else you got? Another topic?
Another topic? Smoothbore 50 cal?
Yeah, why that? A lot of people are actually asking about that. Why that?
So, it's my M1 Abrams. So if you scale down an M1 Abrams, if you scale down the 120 millimeter smoothbore down to a usable size, it doesn't have to be 50 cal. It could be 20 millimeter.
Ah, so you want the gun to look like a normal gun, but you want it to be able to fire a round that's obtainable.
It needs to be. So there is one of these guns. There's one of these guns in Europe. They built it in the 90s.
I think these guys are thinking like I was thinking. You're talking about. I thought you wanted a 50 cal Sabo round.
That's exactly what. I don't want a 50 caliber Sabo round. The reason why I don't want a 50 caliber Sabo round is because first off they already have them. But whenever you're using a weapon that's rifled, so if you have rifling, you're limited at the velocities. You can put down that barrel because of pressure, right? So 35,000 cup or psi. You're limited how much pressure. So if you have a smoothbore, you're no longer limited on the amount of pressure. I mean, you are to a certain extent, but because you're not creating the same type of frictions that you are in a rifled barrel, you can send a projectile out at a much faster speed. Much faster speed, much heavier.
Is it as accurate? I thought we need the rifling.
You need rifling because of the type of projectile we're using. But if you were to use a fin stabilized projectile like the M1 Abrams uses, then you could shoot a shoot a tungsten steel round at a much heavier grain than what we currently shoot through the 50 cal at a higher velocity. What that means is because it's heavier and faster, you don't have the wind problems that you have with everything else. So you could take a 50 caliber, like just an example. The Barrett 50 cal can shoot further in high winds than the 30 cal rifle, just because of faster, heavier. So it's able to buck the wind at longer ranges. So if you had a rifle that was a smooth bore that could shoot a fin stabilized heavy round like the tank shoots.
So is the tank not rifled?
No, it is not. It's a smooth bore. And
are battleship guns rifled?
Battleship guns are rifled. The 16-inch guns are rifled. But the reason why the tank gun is not the reason why we have a 120 smooth bore is because that tungsten steel round, you have to get it up to higher velocities in order to penetrate the side of a tank.
So a tungsten steel round is not a depleted uranium.
They are all, the ones that they use. The combat ones they use are depleted uranium.
So the prac rounds, the training
But the
rounds.
practice rounds is just a tungsten steel sabot, and it will fucking go through fucking 90% of the Russian armor.
So do you know the conspiracy theory around the depleted uranium rounds?
I do not know that.
Gulf War syndrome. Gulf War, all of the rounds we fired supposedly out of tanks and aircraft were depleted uranium rounds, and that was the first actual combat experience using that
Depleted
round.
uranium rounds, yeah.
And all the Gulf War syndrome is not the oil wells on fire, it's the depleted uranium rounds as well as the vaccinations that they gave them. So when you take that all the way back to when you take that forward to Timothy McVeigh, it was ordered by Congress that there be an investigation on the Gulf War syndrome. So they got all of the files together on all these people, and lo and behold, all those medical records were in the building and disintegrated when Timothy McVeigh blew the building up.
I don't know. I wouldn't go that way with it, because the problem, the biggest glaring problem with that is those people are all still alive.
The people, but the records are gone.
Yeah, but the people are still alive.
But
so it's one thing like.
But the vaccination records ceased to exist.
It's one thing to say,
because they were going to have to pay back, and they weren't only paying back. They were not only paying back on them. They were going to have to pay forward for the children born and the spouses. They were going to have to pay multi-generational.
It's one thing to say. So this is how the federal government does it. If they don't want you to know, or if they don't want to have to deal with, let's say, well, we'll just use Gulf War syndrome, right? If they don't want to have to deal with Gulf War syndrome, then they would have done to it what they do to everything like that. They just would have classified it, made it national security. You don't get to talk about this anymore. Blah blah. It's classified. We will release the records in 20 years.
Do they literally say that? We'll tell you in 20 years.
Well, basically what happens is all classified information has a shelf life.
Yes.
So it's usually 20 years. The President of the United States has the purview to reclassify it at its half-life. So, for example, Bush, or Bush Jr., Obama,
Clinton.
I don't think Clinton. It might have been Clinton. Maybe Clinton. They all had the opportunity to declassify the Kennedy files, and they all reclassified them. They all went, nope, nobody gets to see this classified. Trump declassified that information. It could have been declassified, 40 years ago.
There was a ton of Nazi shit in that.
Yeah, a ton of Nazi shit in that.
If you haven't UFO fucking.
It's interesting if you have not looked
Nazi UFO.
If you have not looked at the information that they declassified, you should. First off, it's a lot of information. I believe I heard of one guy that's doing a research paper on it, and he said it's going to take him a year to read all the documents. It's not just, they weren't just releasing one document. They released all the documents during that time period where Kennedy was assassinated. So it's a lot of fucking documents, and it's documents that don't just have to do with Kennedy's assassination. It's just every fucking thing you can imagine at that time period. They had just were like, it's classified.
CIA failed agent, in Argentina. Hitler was in Argentina. Hitler was in Chile or Spain. Yeah. Somebody physically saw him get on a submarine. Then we met another man named Adolf. He changed the last name. They had photographs, and the agents say while this does look like him, the assets and costs that would be expended in searching this would be too spendly. I say we just let this go. It's already sealed up.
We actually, if you look at the documents, during the time frame when this,
when was Kennedy killed? Like, I wasn't even alive.
No, we weren't. It was 1960. I'm sorry, I think 8. We need that guy in the back that just goes, doo-doo-doo. Okay. I think 68. I may be wrong. Sorry. God, it had to be 68.
Just think, like, we're talking about this shit right now. Imagine what they're going to be talking about that fucking happened while we were alive.
Yeah, so they just classify the information. The issue with blowing up a bunch of records is all the people that the records were written on are still alive, so they can still sue the government. I think, my opinion about Gulf War syndrome is, look, they thought, for the first Gulf War, the government thought,
yeah, that's right,
that he was going to use all kinds of agents, blood agents, anthrax, botulism, blah, blah, blah. So during that time period, or in a very short time period, everybody got inoculated with they were all fucking experimental drugs at the time. So, you were standing in line and you got 5 shots and took these fucking huge ass dinosaur pills all at the same time.
And who knows what they really were.
Yeah, and nobody, contrary what people think, there were no long-term studies on any of that medication. They just did it because they thought, hey, look, this is possible that you're going to get botulism when you go into Iraq. And that's my opinion is, if you take any drug, if we take aspirin, and you look at the case studies on aspirin, there is going to be, within that window of, it's probably only 20 people they do the study on, but let's say within a window of 100,000 people, there's going to be people in there that are going to have some serious side effects just from taking aspirin. So now let's take all these people and inject them with all these different drugs that we don't know, like,
not to mention all the mercury carrier and shit.
Yeah, we don't know what the side effects of this, let's say the botulism pills or the anthrax shot together. They're guaranteed nobody did a study. So I am sure that whole incident was considered a wholesale study. Like, they were just like, hey, we're going to make the military do this, and then we'll be able to check the side effects. Unfortunately, a lot of people came back with some serious side effects. Now, and as always, the government's like, oh no, you weren't exposed to anything dangerous, blah 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 blah. They always want to downplay it because it means money. It means money. It's money either now or money later. So people are getting paid for Gulf War syndrome now. So they didn't save any money. They just kicked the can down the road and didn't have to deal with it. And that's kind of what, that is what the government wants to do, is they want to kick that can down the road. So for example, me, President of the United States, what I want to do is I want to kick that classified can down the road just far enough so that me and all my associates aren't going to go to jail, or there's going to be some fucking uprising to drag me out of my house. That's why they classify that stuff long enough so that you as the public, so us as the public, by the time it's declassified, you're like, man, that's some messed up shit that they did. I can't believe they did that shit. But it's been 40 years, so who's going to jail? Nobody's going to jail. Because you're not going to get excited about it like if they came out tomorrow and said, I don't know, Flint, Michigan's been an experiment this whole time. The government's actually been poisoning their water. It's not the water system falling apart. We would want to put people in jail.
That's happened.
Yeah, it has, but it's always classified 20 years later. So at that point, you're like, who's going to jail? We don't even know where those fucking people are anymore.
Tuskegee.
Yeah, that's an example that what they did to the
120 some people plus their wives were born with fucking syphilis.
Yeah.
Their children were born with syphilis. Their wives contracted syphilis. They were forced to stop that.
Yeah. So I mean, who went to jail? Who went to jail for that? Nobody went to jail for that because it was classified so long. I mean, hell, they were spraying radioactive material into downtown Dallas. Nobody went to jail for that.
Three or four.
Nobody went to jail for that.
They were spraying them from not Shriner temples, but Freemason lodges. The cannon things are on top there, and they were spraying them into projects. And all of those projects were leveled. Like, they were all leveled, and all the shit was taken away immediately. Like, it's pretty fucking crazy when you look into that shit.
So, I mean, that's why that stuff gets classified.
So, why do you think Trump unclassified it? You think they just allowed him to?
No, what I think is, this is what I think. I think that the permanent government, the people that will be there,
state?
the
elite,
the permanent government believed that when Donald Trump went in, well, first off, nobody in the mainstream government hierarchy believed that Donald Trump could be elected. Every single one of those agencies had the fucking red carpet rolled out with Hillary Clinton's name on it. They did not expect what happened to happen. When you become president, you immediately get handled. So there are handlers that are going to tell you what you really can do and what you really can't do. It's kind of like, think about what Donald Trump does. What he does all day. He tweets all day. That's all he really does, is he's tweeting all day. He watches the news. Somebody says something bad about him, and he gets, I'm going to tweet. That's really all he's doing. Well, I mean, for the most part. He has pushed a lot of stuff through. There is a lot of things that he has signed and pushed through that if it were any other president, people would be like, oh my God, he's the greatest president ever. I think the problem they're having with Donald Trump is he's not controllable. So, when you take an individual like Barack Obama, and he's got all these great ideas of what he's going to do to make this country great, and then you put him in a room with people who have been in the government forever. Remember, who
remember the inside deals, and
who know all the inside deals, who know where the bodies are, and then you have all these 4-star generals around, and they're all telling them, this is what you got to do, this is what you got to do. You bomb Libya. That's what you do. You bomb Libya. I don't think Trump is the same way. I think Trump has no problem.
Whenever we're in trouble, we need to bomb somebody and fucking move the eyes.
I think Trump has no problem telling those 4-star generals to fuck off. Which, he proved just recently. It's funny. I keep seeing the memes about, I bet you can make your base go crazier and crazier. Trump keeps making the left defend the right. So look at the news. Everybody wants to be in Syria now. Oh, that's amazing how everybody wants to be in Syria. Because the president wants to pull troops out of Syria. Because the president wants to pull troops out of Afghanistan. Now suddenly everybody's a war hawk. If I was called tomorrow and they said, hey, we need you to go to Syria and fight ISIS, I would go. I really would go. Because of just who I am and my upbringing, blah, blah, blah. Should we be in Syria fighting ISIS? No, we should be nowhere near fucking Syria. Because the problem with Syria is we are not the good guys. Right? I know you guys are going to be fucking losing your mind, but we are not the good guys. What we are trying to do is regime change in Syria. We are trying to put our will onto Syria. We are not there to kill ISIS. Look at the 2 years that the Obama administration allowed ISIS to make the caliphate to control northern Iraq and Syria. We're not there to fight ISIS. Our government could give two shits about ISIS. What we are there to do is destabilize that government in order to create regime change. No different than what we did in Libya. Why is that? Because we want to have influence on that part of the world. We want to influence that part of the world. It's the reason why all the fucking 4-stars are upset right now, because Trump's like, pull out of Syria. He's not pulling out of the region. All they're going to do is drive across the border into Iraq and go back to the bases that we still control. We're not pulling out of the region. We're going to still influence that region. But it's not our fucking fight. We cannot be the policeman of the entire world.
And who's over there? SOCOM?
Yeah, it's all ninjas.
So even if they pulled, they're still gonna be there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's when all this uproar about, oh my God, he's pulling troops out of Syria. It's not that big of a deal. They're just driving across the border. But ultimately, that is not our fucking fight. It's not our fight. All we want to do is regime change and attempt to control that part of the world and push Russia out of there. Who gives a shit if Russia wants to stay in Syria? Let them fight ISIS.
How about chemicals in the military? Let's say this is a whole nother fucking podcast in itself, but let's just touch on this real quick. We're running out of time.
Uh-oh. 0352. Where are my 0352s?
What is 0352?
Well, I don't even think they have them anymore. It was a Dragon Gunner, but it's not anymore.
Chemicals in the military. Everybody hears about how Hitler had meth. Well, the United States actually had meth. The United States had meth. We were giving it to troops fucking in World War II. They were giving it to troops in World War II. Fucking Vietnam had a bunch of drug problems. We had chemicals we were issuing to the troops. The troops were finding other chemicals on the ground. What chemicals do you think they are currently... Like, I know that pilots, for instance, use, like, Atarax. So they can go back, sleep for 15, 20 minutes, feel like they've slept for 6 hours. There was even... it got busted out. A pilot... Something happened.
Yeah,
and a pilot testified before Congress that they were basically using a methamphetamine-type thing. What chemicals do you think they're currently using on troops like that in 10, 20 years is going to be the evil that, cocaine or methamphetamine? It's all government fucking made.
Well, I mean, I think the big thing that most people aren't paying attention to is on your
the opposite.
No, your opioids. Elite guys, your MARSOC, your fucking Navy SEALs, blah blah blah. They are currently testing steroid cocktails on those guys. So there's a fucking van that goes around and they're like, "Hey,
you don't think it's normal HR? You don't think it's normal steroid HRT replacement kind of stuff?"
No, I think they're
shit that we haven't heard of yet.
They're using some stuff that we haven't heard of in order to boost performance.
Like Captain America shit.
Captain America shit. At the ground pounder level, no. The fucking guy that's in 0311, he's still sucking it up and doing his best he can. But at the ninja level, they are doing it. Why use the ninja level, not the infantry? The reason why you use the ninja level versus the infantry is the ninjas have a vested interest. So most of your, outside of the Marine Corps, most of your ninjas are older. So they have more time. They have more time invested in training, and they're usually older. And when I say older, I'm talking between 25 and 35. That doesn't sound very old, but in the combat game, that is old. That's why the Marine Corps rotates those 18-year-olds through there all the time. In the combat game, that is old. So if you're a fucking tier 1 asset and the government says, "Hey, we got this cocktail we want to give you for the next 6 months to improve your ability to stay in the fight," you're goddamn right they're going to take it.
Uptake or whatever.
They're going to take that and they're going to want more of it, and they're not going. And if they have to sign some sort of non-disclosure, you're not allowed to talk about this to anybody. They're going to do it, and they're not going to say anything. Why? Because they need to keep up with their peers. They have to keep up with their peers. The minute they fall back, they become a liability, and everybody will be like, "Dude, why are you the only one not fucking taking why are you the only one not doing this shit? I feel great. Look at me." So yeah, I'm sure they're doing enhancement stuff at a.
Do you believe
at a senior level?
So like all the shit back to the SS, like that was that whole program. You had to be 5'9".
Yeah.
You had to be blonde hair. You had to show 2 generations of certain genealogy, that kind of shit. But the gene splicing, the genetics of that, do you think we have basically accomplished what he was trying to accomplish back then like with the gene editing, for instance, right now, and what's it called, the chiller or
the CRISPR.
Like, I mean, are we growing? Do we have universal soldier at this point? Do you think?
I don't think so. I don't think we have it yet.
You don't think there's some fucking dudes flying around when they get shot up? We just throw them in some ice bathtubs?
No, because here's the problem, and this is the reason why. Here's the problem. There's a moratorium on the CRISPR.
That doesn't mean shit. You know that.
It doesn't mean anything. There's an individual who's actually supposedly used the CRISPR to create
gene edit several children.
He gene edited several children. That Chinese individual has disappeared from the face of the planet, and all his research is gone. Here's the problem. The problem with and we're going to do it. Don't get me wrong.
We've already done it.
We are going to do it. Well, the problem right now is while we think we're smart, we're not really that smart, and we don't know a lot about DNA. We don't know enough about DNA. So if let's say I use the CRISPR and I want to take a little piece out and put a little piece in so my kid has blue eyes. Totally possible. The problem is we don't know what thing is attached to that we took out. So yes, your child has blue eyes, but for some reason he also has leukemia. Boom.
So I just watched an interesting video. I don't know if I sent you the link to it in the last couple of weeks. Guys, when I'm sewing, I'm on YouTube, and that's the kind of shit I'm watching. That's really, I don't know a whole lot about this kind of like history stuff. I'm really learning it. I didn't have an interest in it in high school. I didn't major in it. I just have an interest. I watch a lot of material while I'm sewing, stuff I can listen to. A lot of it's History Channel stuff, and then when you watch, the same shit from the BBC, it's very different from our U.S. history. Like their side of it's a little different. But I watched a thing on, and a lot of that shit it all goes back to Germany because they fucking did all the shit, and then we came out and said no, that's not okay. Even though we sold them. Like Hitler had one of the only neutron microscopes, one of two in existence in the world. Like he had the cutting edge equipment because the United States fucking sold that shit to him. So we were in on that shit, as far as the medical stuff and the medical aspect of it. But what they said was so the DNA, we've been able to map the genome or whatever, right? And they said 97% of it is trash.
Yeah.
The Russians say the United States is full of shit. They are still fucking doing this. That is what they've told everybody. We actually found that 79% of it is usable data, and are currently working with this shit.
Well, I would say this is, and that, when people talk like that or whatever, this is what I would say. Whatever is in the genome, the DNA that's in the genome, whatever's in there, 100% of that is usable data.
We just don't know how to use it.
We just don't know how to use it. And that's kind of what I'm talking about with the CRISPR. They invented this thing where they can edit the genome. So they have the CRISPR and they can edit the genome. But
so what do we really talk? I don't even know what a fucking CRISPR is. I'm picturing something you put some fucking lettuce in. I'm picturing a crock pot with some tubes, and we got a baby embryo in there, and we pull some pieces out, and we put some other pieces in.
You're basically taking cells and editing those cells in a manner to change something about it. So right now the big thing they're talking about is you want a kid with blonde hair? Boom, we can make blonde hair. Blue eyes? We can do blue eyes. They're talking about a lot of superficial.
Do we start with material from a woman and a man?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're using viable. You're using viable. It's not.
So we have to pull an egg from a female.
Yeah. It's not completely.
I can't just fucking cut a little piece of your fucking arm skin off.
Not yet. It's not completely they're not growing cells and then doing it. So that's what they're talking about right now. But eventually, what it's going to be is: do you want your kid to be 10% faster? Do you want your kid to be 20% smarter? Do you want? That's where they're going. That's where they're going with the whole CRISPR thing. What that will do, obviously, that will create a super class, and everybody who's not part of that super class will just be the serfs. Or food. I don't know. But that'll create a super class. A super class of individuals that you won't even be able to relate to. But once again, the fear is this. The fear is because we don't know everything, contrary to what they tell you, we don't know everything about the human genome. So we don't know if we take something out and put something in that soup, we put something in that soup, if it doesn't change the whole fucking thing once it grows to maturity. So yes, your child will have blue eyes. Your child is born and has blue eyes, but because you fucked up, because you've messed with that specific DNA, by the time your child is 13, she can't fucking see. Or, once again, she gets leukemia, or she gets some crazy cancer. So that's the fear. They are going to work in labs. They are going to do it behind closed doors. Every government is doing it. That's a fact. The Russians are doing it. We're doing it. The Chinese are doing it. The only thing about the Chinese is they just got caught because the guy who did it came out and was like, guess what? I just edited these children.
I mean, did they really get caught? Is it really not we're working with Russia and fucking Japan and everybody else, and we made that bullshit up to fucking draw the attention?
No, he actually came out. This guy actually came out.
He was getting a Nobel Peace Prize for
Yeah,
it?
I believe that's what he thought was going to happen.
So you think they killed him, or you think he's in a base fucking working?
Oh, I believe he's in some Chinese secret base right now trying to grow super basketball players.
Or swim team.
Or swim team.
Chicks without mustaches.
So yes, the guaranteed somewhere in this country, Russia, China, probably India, probably Japan, they are all trying to figure out how to make that thing work. And there are probably already viable embryos that they have cooking in a lab ready to go. But once again, it's just a question of what happens. What's the end result? Do we create something? Do we end up creating something that has no emotion and loves nothing more than to just go out and kill everybody? I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one to go. Where everybody says that the next 100 years is going to be really hard for us to survive as humans because of all the existential threats that are out there that could just fucking wipe us out. I mean, not just recently, but in the last year, you had the World Federation of Scientists come out and say, hey, everybody, stop fucking working on bird flu. Stop. Just no more fucking bird flu.
Do you think for 1 second
no more bird flu, because instead of identifying bird flu and figuring out a way to neutralize bird flu, everybody in the scientific community immediately weaponized it. They immediately turned it into a weapon. That's a problem, because those type of labs have accidents all the time. And those
in Rustin House, Virginia, they had fucking Ebola actually make it out the fucking door. Google that shit.
Yeah, and those labs, independent labs, don't even have to report when they have an accident. So it's quite possible. They had recently here in, I believe it was in Georgia. If I'm wrong,
that's where the head of the CDC is.
You can yell at me, but there was a CDC. There was a CDC medical. It was a teaching school, so it was for the CDC, but it was a teaching school where you would go and you would learn about
level 4 labs. And
yeah, level 4. You would just learn about all the ways that we can kill ourselves. It closed in the 90s.
That's awesome. They just leave all that shit there.
It closed in the 90s. The school decided just recently, hey, that's some wasted space. We need to fucking we need to use that. We need to use that area. Let's clean it out. And lo and behold, they had fucking anthrax and smallpox in the refrigerator.
Is this not same? Is this not the same one where they were? Because that was in Atlanta too. They were working. They were going to rebuild something. They had some operating rooms or laboratories or something. And when they started excavating, they found a bunch of fucking skeletons under the concrete.
I remember that. I think this is a different school, but they just had that shit chilling in the refrigerator.
You know, that's how they found out. Like, so Operation Paperclip getting busted out. A lot of those doctors continued their work here in the United States, and they landed at asylums and state hospitals because there was no checks or balances. Do you know that as recently as 2005, when they went in to tear some of those buildings down, workers found the documentation of the experiments. They found massive body parts, pieces of brains and records of Nazi doctors who had continued to do all their shit. Like that got busted out as recently as 2005. Don't believe anything we're telling you. Like, go just find any just type anything we've talked about that like piques your ear or perks your interest. Just throw it in YouTube. And just watch one of them, and 100 more will come up.
Except for the smoothbore.
Smoothbore.
Whoever makes that for me.
All right, last thing. If you could have 2 superhero powers, what would they be?
2 superhero powers. Everybody always says they would like to fly. Who wouldn't want to fly? Of course I would want to fly.
Is it, do you teleport, or do you actually have to fly? And what speed do you have to fly? Do you have to have a cape to fly, or can I just like boom run really fast? Are you really flying? Can you fly, or do you?
Yeah,
just, like,
I don't know.
Like,
Because
that shit.
That
Superman fly?
I would assume Superman fly because it almost seems like he doesn't. There's no effort in it, right? He doesn't have to flap his wings. It's not like a bird where he's like, "Oh my god, I'm tired. I got to land." He just, I'm going to go to the moon. I think I would want to. I think I would want to be invisible. I would want to be invisible, and
see through clothes.
No, I think I would want to. I think I would want to be able to.
I want to be able to melt people.
I would want to be able to not read minds, but be able to influence their thoughts.
I like that one. I used to ride like when I was in the car with Mom, and Mom was driving. I'd just line the dot up and blow the car up in front of me. That's a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one.
All right, we got shit to do. Let's turn that up.
How long was that one?
I don't know.
What does it say?
I'm
that
going
says
blind.
an hour and 44 minutes, it looks like.
I don't know what it says. Gabby will tell us.